And joining me in studio is our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman. Owen, Ariel mentioned the polls in that report. Let's take a look at some of the specifics there. For example, Channel 12, which asked, how do you grade the Prime Minister's handling of the operation in Gaza? Responded 63% say good, 29% bad, 8% don't know. Now let's look at the elections polling. Channel 11 has Likud at 28 seats and National Unity at 26. That's important because the Likud had been trailing Benny Gantz's National Unity poll. I'm going to go down to another poll also conducted, which shows Likud at 27, National Unity at 27. There, it's a tie, but again, that is significant simply because National Unity had been leading Likud in the polls the whole time. I will note that the current coalition, current government, still falling short, well short of a majority in these polls. So a bump for Prime Minister Netanyahu, not overall necessarily, at least for his coalition partners.
Right, but still a reversion to the mean, Kalev. This is a prime minister who is in the hospital banged up with a few broken political ribs, if you will, when you get to March 26th, March 27th, and he needs to mount a comeback. He'd already started to take the steps that he would need to do that. Most importantly, put that judicial overhaul way, way far to the side. Focus on things that are still important to your constituents, that are still important to the Israeli right, but are less explosive than that and can still get you moving forward. And that had been what Netanyahu was doing before the operation in Gaza, then goes towards that operation. I don't think he did it for political reasons. Netanyahu knows more than anyone that you know how an operation starts, you don't know how it ends. From a strictly political perspective, extremely risky. It turns out, of course, that it helped him in the polls because the public is happy with the results. Obviously, that's good for Netanyahu. I don't think he did the operation for that reason. He'll certainly take it politically, and I think very quickly pivot back to what had been his comeback on a range of issues, again, to try to continue the process of getting his numbers up. It will obviously take time. When you're as banged up as he was politically, the comeback will take time to happen, but inevitable that it will happen. There will be a reversion to the mean. You know, it's the cliche, but it's in the stock market. You want to buy low and sell high. It was obvious at the end of March that Netanyahu had nowhere to go but up in the polls, and in fact, up he's gone.
All right, well, let's take a listen at what the Prime Minister had to say this afternoon when speaking to his Likud parliamentary faction in the Knesset.
Our intention in Operation Shield and Arrow was to change the balance of deterrence against the Islamic Jihad. And the difference doesn't come from the fact we resorted to targeted assassinations, because that's what we've been doing since I've been the Prime Minister for 16 years. But Israel did it before me too. What changed is that we did it out of a state of calm and that we did wholesale assassinations. That is, we took down half of the leadership of the Islamic Jihad.
Owen, in his public comments to the faction meeting, he went on to speak about Gaza. He made some mention of the Jerusalem Day March scheduled for Thursday, the so-called flag march. Talked about security. One thing he definitely did not talk about, judicial reforms or the state budget, which the government is in the midst of passing and has to pass by May 29th. He really just focused on one issue, security.
Yeah, obviously that where he feels he has a strong foot forward at this point, Kalev. Look, the budget, obviously, there are a lot of provisions in it that are not so popular. I think we all expect the budget to pass. I don't think this government's going to allow itself to fall, of course, with plenty of drama over the next 2 weeks on our way there. But as for the overhaul, at the end of the day, Kalev, again, we've been saying it since January, the overhaul will not pass because, again, it would destroy Israel's economy, society, and it turns out military. Netanyahu should have known that in January. He learned it all too well in March. He now understands it very well. Doesn't matter what his justice minister wants, what the head of the Knesset Constitution Committee wants.
Well, since you mentioned what the justice minister reports today, that he is threatening to resign if at least one element of that judicial reforms is not passed by the end of the summer.
Right, Kalev, if option A is destroying Israel's economy or society, and option B is Yariv Levin resigning, I think Netanyahu knows full well exactly which option he'll take. Of course, he'd rather option C, none of the above, and maybe he'll actually get there. But again, he understands where he needs to steer steer the government, steer the coalition. He obviously will take some hits, and the opposition will have some targets through some of these provisions in the budget. And obviously there's plenty of momentum still through that protest movement. Again, of course, that self-inflicted wound that Netanyahu caused through the decisions he made early in the year. But again, in the big picture, we can expect Netanyahu's numbers to continue to go up. Will they be enough for him to win outright a new election? As always in Israeli politics in the recent past, a big question, not one that is something that Netanyahu needs to worry about in the immediate term, because of course there's no election. But once one comes, he'll obviously want to continue to be in better position. Will it be good enough to actually replicate what he did last November? Obviously, we'll have to wait.
Right, and with also another political challenge that was solved by this operation was the dissatisfaction of Itamar Ben-Gvir, the national security minister, who was boycotting the government, the coalition, over what he felt was this lack of a strong enough response, and this seems to have answered that for now.
For now.
For now, as you say, Itamar Ben-Gvir, I'm sure will have plenty to say, and maybe even this Thursday taking part in that Jerusalem flag march. Owen Alterman, thank you for that.